We're now on the top of Daf Dalid Amud Beis, and we're discussing the machlokas between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yoshua holds that we don't start asking for rain at the beginning of Sukkot. We're going to wait a long time for that. And even though Haskaras Geshamim, which means Masha Baruch Mordegosha begins at the beginning of the holiday, but Bakashas Geshamim is going to be much later on. Okay. Rabbi Yeshua, on the other hand, he has Haskaras Geshamim from the time that we finish the lulav, when we put the lulav down. That's at the end of the Chag. And in this second version of transmission, we're going to say that Rabbi Yeshua, that the Tana is none other than Rabbi Yeshua, the Omar Bishas Hanachaso, Omar Rava Filu Tema Rabbi Eliezer, but it could actually be squared even with Rabbi Eliezer. Now the Mishnah says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ha'over lifnei ateva, that we will not begin until Musaf, and at the conclusion, when we get to Pesach, then Geshamim is mentioned by the Baal Shachris, but not by the Baal Musaf. Uraminu, the Gemara asks a stira from a Mishnah Daf Hey ad Masai Sholin es HaGeshamim. Until when do we continue asking, requesting Geshamim, saying Talmud Levracha, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ad sheyavar HaPesach. So we're going to say the same Talmud Levracha throughout Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyavar HaPesach, and Rabbi Meir Omer ad sheyavar Nisan. We wait until the entire month of Nisan has passed. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah, we conclude the mention of Geshem on the first day of Pesach, and yet here in this latter Mishnah, which we're quoting now, he seems to assume that we are requesting Geshem until the end of Pesach. Ad sheyavar Pesach. How do we reconcile that? Omer Rav Chisda lo kasha, kan lishol v'kan lahazki. In other words, in this Mishnah Daf Hey, we're talking about she'elas Geshamim, and that continues ad sheyavar HaPesach. Kan, but here in our Mishnah, we're talking about lahaz. So let's explain the difference. Meishal shol the azil. Once we're requesting rain, it makes sense to continue through the end of Pesach. But lahazkir b'yom tov harishon posel. As far as mentioning the rain, that we're going to terminate on the first day of the Yom Tov of Pesach. And this is really against what we said before, because till this we were assuming that we don't request for rain unless we have Gvuras Geshamim as Haskara as well in the same tefillah. But now we're separating between the two. Omar Ula objects to Rav Chisda. He says, Rav Chisda, no Rav Chisda kasha. I'm going to ask a question, which is kechometz l'shinayim akoshen v'einayim. Is the difficulty of Rav Chisda's presentation is like vinegar to teeth or smoke to the eyes. Ma b'makom she'eno shoel mazkir. You're going to tell me on Shmini Atzeres when we're going to mention Masechet Goshen, which is called Azkara, and yet we're not ready to be Mavakesh, is Makom Sheshoel in a situation where you're asking for Geshem, Din Shei Maskir. Certainly we should mention the praise of God that He brings down the rain. So the request for rain, the She'ela, should always have Haskara. You can have Haskara without She'ela, but not She'ela without Haskara. And that's against Rabbi Chizda, who says that the She'ela's Keshamim goes through entire Pesach, whereas Haskara's Keshamim terminates on the first day of Pesach. Elamar Ula, Shrei Tanoi, I'll leave it to you. The better way of saying it is that these conflicting statements should be attributed to two different Tanoim, both of whom are ruling in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda. Again, they have two different opinions of what Rabbi Yehuda holds. So the Tanav Mishnah holds that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you continue being Mavakesh Yeshamim until the beginning of Pesach, and yet we continue with Haskaras Yeshamim on Yontif Pesach, all through up until Shachris on the first day of Pesach. So that's the Tanav Mishnah, and that conflicts with a different version in the Tanav of the later Mishnah, that Bakashas Geshamim, and certainly Haskaras Geshamim, takes us through the entire Pesach. Rav Yosef Omar, he has a different way of reconciling this apparent contradiction, and he says, "My Achiyora Pesach." What does the second Mishnah, the Mishnah left, what does it mean when it says until Pesach is over? Achiyavar Shliach Tzibur Rishon, that's the Shliach Tzibur Shachris, Hayored B'Yontif Rishon Shel Pesach. So it means the first Shliach Tzibur goes down. In those days, the teva was lower down, so he would go down to serve as the tzibur, and he did so on the first day of Pesach. So he's in charge of Shabbos, and on the first day of Pesach, he's over with his prayer. One second here. It says, Rishon Hayored B'Yontif Rishon Shel Pesach. Okay, so this Gemara is way too complicated to tackle. We're already going overboard in terms of the hour. So Bli Neder, we'll start here with Rav Yosef in the next year.